call to order the September 13th Bargersville Town Council meeting. Everyone will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call from my right.
Dustin Doyle. Rick Ann Moore.
Andrew Greenwood.
James Ramel.
Have a quorum. Right. First up this evening will be we're going to table nomination for the Bargersville EDC, and the first up will be the Ordinance 2022-21, transfer of funds from general to rainy day fund. Mr. Stone.
Good evening. This ordinance is to transfer monies that were saved and related to the Kephart Park project in the general fund over to the rainy day. At your last meeting, staff was directed to prepare such transfer. What I wanted to call out is that the current budget already had an existing $100,000 as well, so this is in addition to. Also, the 2023 working proposed budget also has an additional $100,000 planned as well. So the aggregation of what's currently budgeted, what's in works for 2023, and then this ordinance you have before you tonight, we're projecting get you to that 25% reserve level for the rainy day level, which would essentially satisfy your policy. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Stone?
You need a dollar amount on that. You need to specify a dollar amount.
Should be, yeah, $325.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to permanently transfer the funds from the general fund to the rainy day fund of how much was that again? I'm sorry. $325,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Ramel, a second by Mrs. Qualls. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Well, thank you very much. Congrats.
I think we have an add-on. Sorry. We want to do this now, the revised signatory resolution for the SRF loan program. I know that it's a resolution, so. Kevin, you want to do this now? Or do you want to wait?
This is a resolution to change the signature on the SRF loan. Previously it was Councilmember Ramel, now it's changed to Council President Andrew Greenwood. So if we could authorize that tonight, we'll get SRF updated and continue with closing out that loan here, hopefully by the end of this year.
Consensus of the
Motion by Mrs. Qualls, second by Mrs. Moore. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. Now we have ordinance 2022-22, amending the salary ordinance.
Okay, good evening. This is just where we're increasing the salary ordinance for the water treatment plant operator position of just $1 because we have a current employee who recently received performance evaluation increase that exceeded the max amount of that highest range. So we're just increasing it $1 for now.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 2022-22, amending salary.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mrs. Qualls. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Mr.
Seacoast, ordinance 2022-18, amending the fee schedule for various construction, zoning, planning, inspection, and other matters.
All right, this is the Department of Development fee schedule update. You've seen this a few times, and we'll go over it or any questions you might have.
Got any questions for Mr. Seacoast?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion amending the fee schedule for service provided by our Department of Development, various construction, zoning, plating, inspection, and other matters.
Motion by Mr. Rommel, second by Mr. Doyle. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the presentation of the August 9th, 2022 Town Council meeting minutes, and the presentation of the August 30th, 2022 Town Council meeting minutes. We do that in one, or we need to do it separately, correct? Okay.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the August 9th, town council meeting minutes.
I have a motion by Mrs. Quall, a second by Mrs. Moore. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
4-0 with one recusal. I wasn't there. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for August 30th.
So, August 30th, there is, on the second page, under town manager, it said, Mr. Cartwright presented the right of refusal, it should be first refusal. And that's the only thing. I'll make a motion with the changes to approve.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mrs. Qualls, a second by Mr. Rommel. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor? Aye. Yep, 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Yeah, cost share budget impact. It's Mr. Stone again.
Last one was the softball. Now it's going to get a little bit, this one's a little bit more involved. But this is this attachment here. Attempt to try to summarize this. So in 2015, Ordinance 2015-2019 was established that fixed the town and utility allocation methodologies from a budget standpoint and outlined certain administrative departments of the town that were shared based on certain percentages. And that's been the budget methodology really for the last several years since that point in time. One of the things that we've been asked to look at is, making sure that that is updated, current, and then present options as far as what are some alternatives. So that is what this scenario template is attempting to do. So the first column is presenting the current state, the 2022 adopted budget. And they're shows the departments, it starts with the departments that are shared across the town and utilities, as well as the splits that are currently outlined per the original ordinance unadjusted. In 2015, the original splits were initially calculated as a percent of total operating revenues. So those change and have changed. So the first thing we did was look at 2021 audited results and mathematically calculated what would those same splits be today if we changed nothing else. And that's what's effectively labeled as the updated splits, okay, on this. So this would be kind of columns 3 and columns 5, okay? The other consideration is that it's looking at this prospectively, looking at the incoming year's budgeted cost, not necessarily actual costs. There are cases where, you know, the reimbursements and cost shares may be done on a pro forma basis, and then the actual cost may come in lower or higher than those initial splits. So that's what I'm showing as updates to actual as opposed to budget methodology. Okay? Any questions with either of those two? There's effectively two different dimensions there that you could toggle on or off. Okay? You could split it based on actual or budget, or you could change and update the splits, or do neither of those, and that's what the no change scenario is. The no change scenario is we use the exact same splits that are in the original outline in Ordinance 2015-29, use the same methodology that we've used, and calculate that support income to the town based on past practice. If we update the splits, those change accordingly. So the town general is currently at 19%. It would go to 29%. Water would go from 57 to 28. Electric would go from 12 to 21. Wastewater would go from 12 to 21. And stormwater would go from 0 to 1, just as an example. Same splits, but with the actual, obviously we have an impact on that case. What I did is, rather than looking into the future in 2023, I looked at actuals in 2021, okay? And then the fifth column is doing both. The very bottom of the screen in bold, you'll see a line that says net budget surplus or deficit result. So right now, our projected budget 2023 with no change, you can see that cumulative forecasted surplus, and then for each scenario, you can see the outcome. Parentheses would be an unfavorable result. Okay, so if any of the options, if same splits but moving to actual, or updating the splits and updating to an actual methodology, both of those would result in us needing to make corresponding budget. Okay. So from my perspective, this is really the last remaining major budget assumption, because it obviously impacts the general fund revenue significantly, and it also becomes a cost input on the utility side. I also know that some of these may be big changes to take in 1 year, so it's something that I would suggest in either case becomes just a part of the annual budget cycle, that we review this and look at this and provide that to the, to you all to make that determination. I'm not your counsel, but as I've read through this, I believe that in either case, if you do anything from the current, I believe it would probably require at least potentially an amendment to this. So as of right now, we are budgeting it as written.
So Adam, thank you. I think this all goes back to, I think we called it the North Star project, right? Where we were trying to work to see how to minimize our future dependency on the cost share for our overall town budget and how that would look. And I think that's what Adam's presenting today, is the methodology that we use is probably outdated to even calculate it, let alone, is this a good opportunity to start working towards that and lowering that percentage? Because there might come a point in time when, we need utilities to be able to be not 100% separate, but more separate than they are right now in terms of budgeting and what our town paying for versus the utilities. So I know it's a lot to think about, but it is something we need to give Adam some direction on, and then he can bring back an amendment or the amendment, right?
Yeah, I think
Going forward.
I think that's right, and I appreciate that. I think, in one, if you wanted to proceed with an amendment to update the splits or the kind of basis, actual or budget, I think that would be an amendment to the original ordinance. Alternatively, really from my perspective, we would just also want to make sure we were we're at the stage where we need to start advertising the budget and all those things, so we need at least direction on what methodology, because as you see that we have some work to do in some of the options if one option's chosen over the other.
So in 2023, if we change the amended to recommend, or the 29%,
Yeah.
we need a deficit, we're gonna have a deficit, so we'll have to have an amendment, explain that.
Yeah, so if you move to the updated splits,
Mhm.
but you keep it on prospective budget, so that would be, I should have labeled these column 3,
Okay,
if that makes sense, then you would still be in a budget surplus.
But when you say budget surplus, are you talking about our overall net budget?
Yes, yeah. So it's really only until you get to columns 4 and 5 that I show us right now in current estimates where we would need to clean that up. Meaning, before we get to a proposed budget, we would want to come back and
We would have to, if we wanted to be a net surplus, we would have to reduce some of the budget items that we
Right.
have, which we haven't seen the budget yet. So,
But
Yeah.
the goal was
or,
to,
I mean,
was the North Star.
right, was to try to reduce it, but if we did that column 3, if we said to move forward with that, we would still have a surplus and we would have reduced by 8%.
that's correct. And I would add 2 other points of reference. If you directed us to, let's say, you column 3, updating the splits, that doesn't mean that when you get to the budget, you still can't reduce it or change it. You know, it just gives us direction to kind of prepare the estimates. Additionally, I would suggest that that just become an annual thing, that we look at those and bring that before you all to make that decision. And then I would also just encourage you to maybe consider not doing storm, just because it's only at 1%. There's an administrative cost to that, so I think maybe we can kind of back them out until they become maybe at least 5% or something like that, just from a practical matter. And then lastly, it's kind of like 2/3 way down the page. You can see the percentages. It's under the label percent of other general fund revenue. So that's not necessarily, it's not calculating as the percent of total general fund revenue, it's that specific reimbursement divided by all other revenues that aren't that, okay? So what it's saying is that right now, you can see the percentage that it's at and the share of, the comparison of that one revenue account as opposed to all other revenue accounts in the general fund, okay? And you can see that just by moving to option 3, you have materially moved that down. So so I wanted to just put that on there.
You know, I guess I'll mention that when we started this conversation with Adam about this, I don't think I ever had any intention or thought that we would be able to even do 8% this year. So this is dramatically more than I thought we'd be able to do. I think at one point I said, well, if we could do 2% a year for 20 years, that would be wonderful, and start to work our way. So to me, this is already, we've made a lot of progress in the few months that we've been working at it, not to mention there's still other budget opportunities that we haven't discussed.
Yeah, and just to, if the aggregate budget specifically in the cost share departments goes down, cost share goes down too, right? So, and you haven't even seen those yet. So these are all preliminary numbers.
so 3% just in the general fund, right? If you look at that third column. So the recommendation is to take out the storm and put
Yeah,
in line.
yeah.
So where would that
would-
percentage equal go to?
Yeah, I think I would need to, what I would want to do is rework the math, but it's basically fractions of that would show up in each one of those.
Yeah.
Because it would be the weighted average, but that would be, I don't really have a recommendation per se, because in this case, it's impacting the town-wide, so my recommendation would be bring it back annually, carve out storm, or any cost share until it becomes material enough to even do. And then, 2, my only other recommendation would just be that we just make this part of the normal budget process, so that it's very transparent.
I would vote for that tonight. I don't really can.
So am I hearing correctly that we're good to proceed with updating the splits. We'll work with David on that. And then from a budget presentation perspective, it'll be reflective of the updated splits. Okay?
We get a consensus?
Yeah.
Consensus. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we're targeting maybe next meeting or shortly thereafter for the first, okay?
We get a consensus?
Yeah.
Consensus. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we're targeting maybe next meeting or shortly thereafter for the first set of budgets, so we'll get initial drafts. And this gives us our final piece that we need. We'll start moving with Gateway for all the public noticing and those kind of requirements, go through the advertisement process. We're still working on the levy appeal, do that as well. So the next meaningful budget update we have will be the 2023 proposed. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam.
Alright. I believe we have Mr. Cartwright via video. Is that correct?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, I'm sorry I can't be there, as long as I don't have to walk, I'm doing okay, but walking to the top right now. First thing on the agenda, my name is a discussion regarding the BOT legislation. The BOT, at the last RDC meeting, they heard a presentation from Greg Marks of Union Development regarding the BOT concept. They were intrigued by it. They want to possibly consider it for the project, and they have not made that decision yet. But before, the first thing that has to be done is the council has to adopt the BOT statute. Just because the council adopts the BOT statute does not mean that the council or any other group inside the town has already committed to using it. But the adoption of the BOT statute, state statute, is the first step in doing that. So I suggest to consider that, and if you agree that we should do that, then I'm assuming David would have to develop an ordinance for that. So that's all that I had on that. So I'll be glad to answer any questions regarding it. I think I talked about it at the last council meeting. But again, all I'm asking for is consideration for the council to have legal counsel develop an ordinance, if necessary, to adopt the state GOP statute.
Dan, my personal opinion is that we need to get educated on this, and so I would request that we have Mr. Stone and other experts come in and give us, if it's Mr. Marks, that's fine, or others to come in and give the council an education on what this means before we spend our valuable attorney's time and valuable money to draft that. So we can work on that and setting that up at a near date, unless someone else feels differently.
It's not real urgent for it to happen today, Mr. President. It's just something that needs to be done before the next step in a DOT project, if either the RDC or the council decide they want to proceed with a DOT project. So I will make arrangements to have a presentation. Now, Adam's been involved in a couple of meetings regarding this with Mr. March. So he's very, very, very familiar with it. But I'll be glad to make arrangements to have Mr. March come in and make a presentation to council. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was here for the majority of it. I just think that the rest of the council, I don't know that it's as much from Mr. March that we need to hear it, Dan, as we do need to hear it from our advisors, and from Adam and others on the kind of the pitfalls and positives of it. That's just my personal opinion, but I've heard it before, so.
It's just one option that you would have, though, right? It's not, you would always have to build something and use this system.
No.
It's just giving us the option to.
Right, but in order for us to even entertain it, or anyone to utilize it,
Yeah.
the council would have to adopt this
Right.
statute. But I think before we even spend time with David, it would be good for us to get educated and understand it. I think it is a great tool that can be used to finance projects, and it's a great construction methodology as well. Probably wish we would have done that on the police station in hindsight, but we can't go back in time, can we?
I've seen constables say I love the police station.
Okay, so, I guess what I hear you saying then is that it's not necessary to have Mr. Marks come in, you would just like to have, more information, or input from, Adam particularly?
Yeah, and maybe either Ellen or David, and any other experts that they believe would be helpful. Adam's gonna.
Ellen and I have had some
Yeah, I think-
conversations.
Alan and I talked both of their conversations, so we can all work on it together. Probably Adam and Ellen are already a step further.
And we can figure out how we can do that via Zoom maybe, or a video conference.
With all five of you?
Yeah, or maybe it's a special meeting, or maybe it's a special meeting, but it would be good for everyone to hear it. So we'll figure out schedules and go from there. Thanks, Sam, on that. Next.
Okay, skipping over the street closure, Kevlar Park. The Parks Department implementation plan, that's a document that you've all seen that I've been working on. Susie's been involved in it for somewhat too. The Parks Board has been involved in the preparation of this as well. And I presented to the Parks Board last week for their consideration, and approval or adoption of it, basically. Again, this is just an implementation plan. It matches Parks' 5-year plan that was finished 2 years ago. When I developed this, I went back to the 5-year plan and took everything in consideration and did this. This document is a result of what Susie asked me to do. She said, could you give me a better description and lay out a vision plan for the Parks Department? And that's what this is. And the only thing I'm asking is basically the same thing that I've asked the Parks Department. Would like to get your support of this plan so we go on to the next step.
Dan, did the Parks Board, at the Parks Board meeting, did they have any recommendations?
Their recommendations were already put in the document that's in front of you, Susie. I'm trying to think what they were. There were a couple of things that really went, when we met the whole park board, didn't
there any questions from Mr. Cartwright about the plan? It's just, yeah, we're not,
Okay.
Nothing's in stone.
we're not adopting it or voting on it tonight, I believe.
No, that's not what I'm asking for, I'm just asking for you. Agreement that, hey, looks like a pretty good plan, let's start off with what, see what happens.
Well, I mean, the plan is asking for hiring and salaries that would take.
I think that's the next agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of the court, okay. That's moving in that direction.
Note that. Put that in the minutes. All right, thanks, Dan. I guess we'll move on to the Director of Parks and Recreation job posting.
Okay, you have in front of you, it's not completed yet, there's still some recommendations, some recommended changes that have not been adapted into the job description, but a job description for the Director of the Parks and Recreation. What I'm looking for here is, I will bring this job description back to you for formal approval before it is advertised. I thought I was going to have everything ready and finalized for this meeting, but there's been a couple of changes to it that have not been taken into consideration. As an example, the Parks Board wanted to make sure that the minimum years of park and recreation experience is 4 years as opposed to 6 years. And I think the one you have probably says 6. And a couple other things, and I don't have my notes with me, my notes are in the office. Susie had a comment to make sure that they understand they have to work on weekends, may be required to work on Saturday. And I don't know for sure if the one you have in front of you says that or not. There's some cleaning up to do on the job description before it's actually presented to you. But again, in the spirit of keeping you informed of what's going on, that's where we're heading, and that's what we would, and I'll bring it to you before. I do have one other thing on parks that I didn't get to mention earlier, if I can.
Sure.
The Parks Board agreed with my recommendation to dissolve the Parks Advisory Commission. And in order to dissolve the Parks Advisory Commission, I had a conversation with David, and David said that commission was created by ordinance. So to dissolve it, it would require an ordinance to dissolve it. So I am asking for the council approval for David, your legal counsel, to develop an ordinance to dissolve the Park Advisory Commission, and the pay that the Park Advisory Commission is getting now, which is $40 a meeting, that pay would go to the Parks Board.
Then to 40, no, that's the advisory commission, right?
The Parks District doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
The board doesn't get it.
The parks board does, the advisory board.
The advisory board does, the park board does not.
So we created the Park District Board when we did the funding for the bonds for Kephart Park. So essentially, you're rolling it into just one entity, I think is what we're trying to do, but I think.
Basically, they're creating this entity and hiring the director of Parks and Recreation.
No,
That-
since you have
Right.
an
Yeah.
official board now, that
Right.
actually has their own.
So
We don't need a double.
I think we can, by consensus, let David work on that, and then he'll bring it back, Dan will bring it back for a vote once we have a formal ordinance.
The ordinance, which would be an ordinance dissolved, and we'll be amending the ordinance establishing the park district.
Okay. So, are there any other questions, or by consensus, we wanna allow David to do that? All right, consensus. We'll have David work on that.
Okay, thank you. The last thing I have is a redevelopment commission update. The redevelopment commission has a couple of things that I want to make sure to tell you about. One is the parking lot on the railroad track on Baldwin Street is going to be getting repaved. The cost is $33,120. Wallace Construction is going to do that, and the Parks, or the redevelopment commission authorized me to award a contract to them, so it has been done, and that work will be completed hopefully in the next few weeks. And the other thing is, the redevelopment commission also awarded a contract to Crossroads Engineering to be the lead designer what I'm trying to say.
Awesome.
The Plaza project.
The plaza project, and we actually have our first design meeting with them next week or the next couple of weeks. So that will be going, getting underway. We're going with a budget for that project of about $160,000. So the strange estimates that you have before is like $300,000 or whatever. We're not looking at that. We're looking at something a whole lot less.
I think you mean $1.6 million and 3-something million.
I'm sorry?
I think you meant the budget is $1.6 million, and previously some of the estimates were over $3 million.
Yeah, I forgot about the zeros.
Minor details.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I know.
Dan, is there any, Dan and Susie, I'm sorry. With them paving the parking lot, is there gonna be an issue with construction happening on that plaza? Where it's going to tear up that parking lot?
No, there's not, Susie. We went over and we measured, the property. Basically what it amounts to is it'll be paved down. There's split row fences. There's a split row fence on the other side of the railroad track from where you're sitting. And where that fence stops is going to be the end of what they're paving. The rest of it on farther north will all be construction, for the plaza project. We will have barricades up across that, and that won't interfere at all.
So are we going to strike that?
It's better this way, because we don't have barricades, have it closed up, then, the chances of contractors with the park equipment stuff there will probably happen. This way, it's gonna be paved, it's gonna be able to be used by the downtown merchants. We gotta do, at least one, maybe two new restaurants opening up before that plaza, by the downtown merchants. We gotta do, at least one, maybe two new restaurants opening up before that plaza is going to be started. But it will not interfere, it will not be a problem with the new construction.
So as part of that paving, is that striping as well? Did they include that in there?
Yes, ma'am.
David, I have one question for you. Once the plaza is completed, will the town take title to the RDC, or will it manage to get through?
The town, the town owns the plaza because we utilize park impact fee money to purchase it, even though it's a RDC plaza.
So RDC can take bids on construction, even if the town owns it.
They're gonna fund it.
it. They're okay.
Yeah. And they own, the reason why it flip-flopped on that other ground, is because they technically own that piece of ground south of the plaza, where the parking is. So, I think the ultimate goal, I can't speak for the RDC, but there's been conversations, the ultimate goal is for them to fund the project, and then when it's all said and done, to then turn that over to either the Parks Board or the town. All right. Dan, anything else?
That's all I have.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Seacos. Justin's favorite part.
Just a kind of cleanup bond item for you this evening. There's some aging bonds ranging from acceptance in 2019 to 2021 for Morningside sections 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Lennar has provided acceptable maintenance bonds to replace those. Staff would recommend releasing the performance bonds and accepting the maintenance bonds. We have been out to verify the installation and completion of these items.
We do this all in one, David?
Yeah.
Do we need to?
You can
Do we
I
need
have to do all the sections, or can I just call them
can-
conformity survey bonds?
Yeah, how
I
did,
do the split sections.
okay.
3, 4. Mr. President, I move that we approve the release of the performance survey bond, section 3, section 4, section 5, section 6, and section 8. What's the first one? I don't see, there's
Second,
no, the first one right there, there's no section. Asphalt path, common area, sidewalks, minor.
Section 3.
I think
Says
that's a,
section.
yeah, that's a goof with the justification, I think.
Goof with the justification for what?
Where those tables fell,
Section 3, above it says section 3, asphalt path, common area, sidewalks, monumentation.
Right. If you look, if you go down to section 3, that's below, section 4 is below, section 5, section 6, section 8 is below. So there's no section for the top there. You see what I'm saying? So if you do it the way you're doing it, the top is section 3, what's the section for the very bottom, monumentation, street signs, and erosion control?
I think they're all in the.
here.
Oh.
that, yeah, that
So
last,
it's off my computer.
Yeah, it's off your
Yeah.
computer. You
So, section 3, section 4, section 5, section 6, and section 8, also to approve the acceptance of the maintenance bond, section 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. For Morningside, section 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8.
I'll second.
She thinks.
A motion by Mr. Doyle, a second by Mrs. Claus. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
I'll apologize, I just figured out the last table on the performance survey summary is a copy of the maintenance that got transferred down over to the report.
Gotcha.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Chief Bertram, you're up.
Wherever you come.
Hello, Chief.
Good evening, everyone. First thing on my agenda is statistics. I floated through the statistics, and you can see when the calls go up and the traffic stops go up, the extra patrols go down. Unfortunately, that's just the way it rolls. Nothing major stands out. Dustin always, Andrew always keys in on the alarms. They did go up by 10.
They're up by 10 over the last period.
Over the last year,
Oh,
from compared to last year.
yeah, from the same, yeah.
Yeah, compared to the same time period last year. Injury crashes are up by 1, nothing major. An interesting statistic is property damage crashes are up by 15. So I looked into that to see where those primarily are falling. In their Stones Crossing 135 area. The confusing part about that area is that only the southwest corner
Is ours.
is ours. So what ends up happening is we're not gonna fight about it on the radio, we're not gonna argue over lines, so, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 crashes, 6 crashes, and, 8 crashes, if I can count, 8 crashes in the Stones Crossing 135 corridor, that, and only 6 of them, only 2 of them were ours, 6 of them would have been Greenwood's if we would have been fighting over lines. It's whoever gets there first. It's not really a race, but we're not gonna start Greenwood if it's unless it's blatantly their crash or something like that.
It's a constant bad area, isn't it?
It kind of is, and I tried to go through the dates to see if they were on Sundays, if they were on Monday, Wednesdays, and what time periods they were in. They were all over the place.
Nothing.
So there really wasn't anything, specific that I think that we could do to reduce that, except for change the roads or learn from those mistakes and maybe not do things that way up there. Yeah. The other thing on my agenda is the mayor board has approved Josh Wheat. We talked about him last month's meeting. PERF has approved his psych and physical. I'm looking for a start date on October 10th. If I can get your blessing there, we'll start him and get him training. He's already academy certified, so he doesn't have to go to the academy. He's just has to do FTOs.
We can do that through consensus. Consensus. Thank you.
And I have a walk on. In my defense, it came out today. I got it today. And I made enough copies for the clerk. I think you'd like that, Susan. So everybody's seen our sign out front that we got, a new sign for the PD. I don't really like the way that it's turned out. Exactly, it's still kind of in the ditch and it's kind of low and it's kind of small. So the proposal was to try to make it look a little bigger and make it stand up a little taller and make it usable so we don't have to spend a lot of money to redo it. Well, I met with More Landscaping and told them what I wanted, and the sheet that you have in front of you, $5,235, is to do that. Now what I wanted done, what I said I wanted done was built up 2 feet with landscaping block around like a rectangle, and then the sign, and then dirt fill in, and then mulch and plants, and then the sign reset in the middle of that, so it would kind of pull that whole sign up and make it look a lot better. I still think that's cheaper than buying a new sign.
Where are we at on our?
Yeah, I don't have the money. By the way, I don't have the money for that, so.
Yeah, so we've expended all of our funds through,
I'm sure.
through Hagerman, and we're all out of sign money.
Can I jump in and answer that question, please?
Sure.
Yeah, that project had $150,000 contingency in it, and you're $6,135 over the contingency amount as far as the contract is concerned. So there will be a change order for this contract that I'm working on trying to get resolved for another $6,100 to pay with.
We got that going for us.
Oh, yeah, is that going for us? The good thing is, I mean, I guess there's really no hurry. The sign's there, it's not going anywhere. It looks the way that it looks. I hate that the building's beautiful and the sign's not, but not the end of the world.
It turned out beautiful, didn't it?
Huh?
The lettering on the building.
Is that-
Yeah, that looks great, but
The
the sign
sign.
is disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Unfortunately, I got approvals, I think it was the old town manager sent me an approval for the sign, what it looked like, but I didn't have any measurements. I mean, I had no idea how big it was or anything. It was just, do you like the way this looks? And I'm like, yeah, it looks great. Well, side note, that's how it turned out. It's just not big
I
enough.
think we were surprised at the size.
Yeah, it was definitely. And, yeah, and that too. But I think building it up and supporting it better in that situation, that landscaping situation, will make it more sturdy too.
Todd, you mean, how much did the original sign cost us?
Yep. Dustin's on it, 10 grand.
I was just seeing the cost of the new sign.
I mean, even if we get a new sign, it's still have to be built up.
It has to be built up.
Yeah, I think it is gonna have to be built up no matter what.
Unless you get.
Even if you, yeah.
You only go 8 feet.
Right.
And that's right,
gotta get a
I've been
variance for
informed
that.
that there's a limit.
Well,
gotta
there's
get
a
it.
limit from the ground, but is there a limit from the street level?
That's exactly what I said.
And I CC Joe on everything, so.
Yeah.
We might be able to get a variance. We know somebody.
They already have one.
Oh, only one allowed. One per project.
So I hate to bring bad news to you, but I don't know how we would fund this project, but
We just have to find a place in the budget.
Can I add something, please?
Sure.
If you don't want to spend the $5,200 to raise the sign and get this going, I suggest that Kevin and I ought to put our heads together and see if raising that sign can possibly be something that we can do with our own forces. Because I really believe we can raise that with our own forces. But it would take some manpower from a couple of different departments. But I'd be glad to look into that.
now that would not be my decision, that would be yours. I don't care who does it, we know what needs to be done, so.
Well, what you're asking for is two different things. One is for the raise and also install additional landscaping.
This,
I was gonna say, I think we need that
I
broken.
mean, whether or not it's raised by Kevin and Dan go out there with a shovel and raise it, or
so,
departments do, doesn't, you're still asking for landscaping around there, and then we need to find additional funds or figure out if Mr. Stone can,
this quote is fixing the whole thing. This quote is raising, you're gonna have to, the sign is put in by one single post, and it sits on it, and it bolts to it, so it does this, it's not touching the ground on the bottom by about that much, so.
Yeah, basically, I think what, I mean, if we could get, if we get Andy to say, install the new beam under the new sign is X price, install the landscape blocker on the new barn beams X price, and then,
Okay.
just kind of break that out.
Because maybe the plants, we can find them, Home Depot, their own plants. I know people heard something like that.
I'll let you guys,
Yeah.
how about this? Why don't you go back and get
I have
detail
it.
on this, and
I will.
we can see what,
Because we have to just break out the cost of what it costs for us to
Yeah.
raise the value of the
Sure.
and then figuring out where the whole thing budgets to.
yeah, and then Adam, if you could help us figure out.
Yeah, sorry, Adam,
Well,
this
well-
just came in today.
I think there's a spot under the police department budget under chief's salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, here, just take it.
Okay. Is that
So-
enough direction?
That is plenty of direction, and I will certainly follow up that. I did want to mention to everybody, and then Dan also, we had an accident today with a rollover tri-axle truck on 144 that would have potentially closed the road for
4 to 5 hours if we'd have waited on insurance to get their people there to clean the mess up. I called Brian Clark and asked him for 2 signs to help close the road, and he brought 3 dump trucks and a backhoe and cleaned it up. So that was awesome teamwork. So
Great work.
we got it done in about 2 hours instead of 4.
And there's a new baby,
There's a new baby. There is.
furry baby.
Jack's the little fur baby. He's at training, and Jefferson says, the officer that's assigned to him, Jefferson says that he's driving him crazy. So, which, you know, I said, hold on, man, you only got 6 weeks. It's okay. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Killinger.
Good evening. First item on the agenda is an update on our 2 Cent Road force main project as we acquire easements. This, again, has come before you before as we negotiate and update, and we have a new total here, $48,636. I believe on this project, all easements have been executed with the property owners that are impacted with this. So hopefully you won't see this again.
Are we approving this amount tonight, Kevin? Or is this just an update?
I didn't look at the minutes to see what the last amount that you approved, but just to be safe, we could just say, you know, not to exceed this new dollar amount. And we can issue checks as we.
I thought we gave you, yeah.
Parcels would, I mean, even if it does, I mean, this one would supersede, David, if we approve this one, it would supersede the other one, if we don't say exactly what parcel numbers. Mr. President, I move that we approve the purchase of the easements in parcel number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, in the amount not to exceed $48,636.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mrs. Moore. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Thank you. Forgot I had this on here, another police department item. This would be my budget. So at the police department, we have a CenturyLink, or what is now Lumen, telephone pole on the property that we would like for them to remove at our cost. So they would remove this pole and bore the line under Morgantown Road to clean that up. So I wanted to bring that to council for consideration. And if not, then we'll leave the pole. Originally, when we engaged with them, it was going to be a little bit less. But after a couple of weeks, it came a little bit higher. So $4,500, we can remove this pole, have them put their wires underground.
Kevin, is this a safety issue, aesthetics?
Aesthetics.
So is the sign.
Does anyone have any questions?
You have a pole or a sign?
Yeah, one or the other.
Maybe we could put the sign on the pole.
You guys decide.
Can reflect.
That's moderate, that's recyclable.
That's right.
Evergreens.
Any other questions for Mr. Killinger?
This will go against your budget, utility budget.
IT, so communications. Or other professional fees. I'm looking at the accounting here to see how we cover
Phone
it.
and internet. We already have it now.
Kevin, do you know how much difference there was in a couple weeks?
I could go back on my emails, but it was probably within $1,000, I think. Maybe, I don't know, it was around 3,800, something like that. It was probably within $1,000, I think. Maybe, I don't know, it was around 3,800, something like. if you guys recall, I don't know if I texted or emailed that to you, but
Mr. President, I move that we remove the Century Link pole, the amount not to exceed $4,500.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Mr. Ramell. Any no questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. No more poll. People poll, but that means
might take 6 months, but we'll get it out of there. We'll lock in our price.
Century Link, it's
lumen.
Yeah.
The next two items are, as we get, this happens usually from year to year, as we get close to the end of the year, we expend or exhaust our task orders for various items. So the first one, we've got on-call water utility services, change order 22-01. And the next one is in regards to our SCADA, or our SCADA support, the system that monitors our infrastructure and utilities, to add some additional dollars to get us to the end of the year. Jim McNulty from Strand is here to answer any questions related to these two agenda items.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramell?
These are hourly, so it's just, it's your, it's your discretion. We try to get to the end of the year. We've been doing pretty well. We've had some unexpected issues on the SCADA side, especially. I think the SCADA computer went down. That really kind of hit that budget pretty hard, and not an unexpected event through the year. That's typical.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to increase Strand's on-call order from $35,000 to $45,000 or $10,000, not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ramell, second by Mrs. Walls. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. And then we have another second amendment. Request.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to request to increase SCADA task order for water utility from $15,000 to $20,000, not to exceed $5,000.
Motion by Mr. Ramell, second by Mrs. Walls. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Thanks. Just a quick update on two projects. The 135 sanitary sewer extension from Whiteland Road. The infrastructure is in the ground and is complete, going through testing. We have yard restoration work to do. That is almost complete. And we have started on the alley project here north of Harriman. That is difficult work. It's a tight space to work within, and every utility is in that alley. So we've got 20 feet of pipe in the ground so far. But we're off of Harriman now, and that was the goal, to get out of Harriman so that road paving project can continue and we won't slow them up. So we've accomplished that, and we are working to move north, but trying to obviously work with all the business owners and some of the residents in that area, and making sure the line of communication is open. So if questions come your way or emails, please send them our way, and we'll respond fairly quickly to those ones. I'm happy to get that going, and hope to be done in November with that, I believe, maybe the end of November. Questions for me? Great, thank you.
Kevin. I think that wraps everything up, unless someone has any updates, board updates, or... Oh. No, that's all been tabled. Yes, the Harvest Fall Festival is Saturday from noon to
No?
9?
Oh, no. Go on the website, I know it's on there. Or social media. I know it's been.
It is
Posted on
Saturday.
social. It is Saturday, it's definitely Saturday, it is Saturday, so.
Parade will start at the church.
It's all online.
Okay.
Just go check it out online, you can get the map, figure out where to park, what time to come.
Andrew, can you check online so I can call you later now?
Yes. Any other comments or updates from the board?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Oh, I have a motion by Ms. Moore and a second by Mr. Doyle. We're adjourned. Thank you.